Hello, welcome to the MO podcast. My name is Contumacious-Ann and I'm here with my lovely co-host Atreya.
Hey!
And today we're going to be talking about the first serial killer, H. Holmes.
Okay, so Herman Webster Mudgett, aka H. Holmes, can understand why he changed his name. Born in 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. He was the third of 5 children, and according to him, in his own words in his book, he had a fairly normal upbringing. There were stories where people were saying his father was abusive, but he actually denied this, and he said there was no reason to think he had anything other than a normal childhood. He did have a fear of the doctors, and the local boys in his town actually grabbed him and rushed him into the local doctor's surgery and put him face to face with a skeleton. Wow. Which absolutely traumatized him.
Wow, can you imagine?
Yeah, he actually said that made a quite significant impact on him throughout the rest of his life. It cured his fear of doctors and made him want to go and study medicine. So he then moved to Alton. He met and fell in love with a girl called Clara Lovering, and they got married in 1878. And by 1880, they'd had one son called Robert. Clara's parents actually said they didn't like him, and Clara's mother actually said to her, "You could not have done worse, and will probably have to support him."
Wow, well, she's not on board, is she?
So she didn't like him. Clara's parents didn't like him, especially when he dragged Clara off so that he could study at the University of Vermont, only to bin it off a year later. He didn't like it, so he switched unis and he went to study medicine at Michigan. Whilst he was there, him and Clara were living in a boarding house, and the other people who were boarding with them said that they could constantly hear them arguing and that Clara was seen sporting black eyes on a number of occasions. So shortly after that, Clara left and she went back to her parents in New Hampshire, who I'm sure did the "I told you so" dance.
Indeed. With that as well, do you think it was a marriage of convenience, or they did actually care for each other and he was just a bit of a...
Well, they were very young when they met, and they were married by 18. So I think it was one of those young love, maybe...
The first girl you see, it was that time as well, weren't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Especially
he didn't seem particularly attached to Clara, to be fair, after a while. I think he was a notorious womanizer, so I think she just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she just had a great body on her. So worked out well for her because she was still alive by that time. So
she was one of the lucky ones, I suppose.
She was actually, when she moved back home, she said afterwards that she heard next to nothing from him or about him. She basically spent the rest of her life, her and Robert, and they never heard from him ever again. That probably was really lucky on their part.
Well, yeah, indeed.
Whilst he was at university, though, apparently, and this story varies depending on the source, there was a young boy in his care who just went missing. I can't find any facts to back this up. I can't find anywhere that would say why this boy was in his care, but apparently he was seen walking around with this little boy who then vanished off the face of the earth. Whether or not that's factual, he's never mentioned anything about it in his book, but then it's not like he was, having any kind of emotional connections to anybody, really, that got in his way.
This was one of the problems I had, trying to get the facts from the fiction between it all.
Especially since he perpetuated a lot of the fiction. He would change his story that many times.
Yeah.
Eventually, I don't think even he knew what was the truth and what wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a pathological liar. So, apparently he worked in pharmacies a lot as well. And there was another story where a young boy who had received drugs from the pharmacy where he worked died shortly after. Wow. But again, was that true? Was it coincidence? We don't know. But given that when he was at uni, him and his fellow students had proposed this scheme to steal medical cadavers, mutilate them to look like they'd been involved in some sort of horrible accident and then claim the life insurance money from them. Now, whilst the theory was that's how Holmes made his money in the early days, when they were interviewed, the fellow medical students actually denied it and said, yes, okay, we did propose this plan, but we didn't actually ever go through with it. Not that they would admit it anyway, really, if they did.
Well, I'd read that he'd done that, and later on that's kind of what he keeps doing, but I didn't know he involved other people in it as well.
Well, apparently it wasn't even his idea originally. It was some other guy that he was friendly with at uni, and they kind of thought, oh, this is a quick money-making scheme. You know, we've got access to free bodies, let's go for it. But allegedly, they never went through with it. Maybe they didn't go through with it, and maybe later on he just decided, well, hell, if you're not going to do it, I could sure use a free book here and there. So maybe he went through with it. But regardless, after all that, he moved away and he changed his name, I think, to try and avoid being investigated from people's disappearances, people dying from taking the drugs he was selling at the pharmacy and things like that. I think he just wanted a fresh start and swindling under a new name. So he moved to Chicago, and he was still married to Clara at this point. He hadn't filed for divorce, but he fell in love with Myrta Belknap, who, again, wrong place, wrong time. He then went on to marry her, even though he was still married to Clara. Apparently, yes, apparently he said he filed for divorce to Clara, and he sent the divorce papers, accusing Clara of infidelity. That's the grounds he was filing for divorce on.
Brave man.
But the papers never surfaced. There's no record absolutely at all that he filed for divorce in any way, shape or form. But regardless, he married Myrta. Now, this bit's the interesting bit because, okay, so the well-known story is that he gets a job in a pharmacy in Chicago ran by a Dr. E.S. Holton. The well-known version of the story is that Dr. Holton was terminally ill and he couldn't run the pharmacy, so his wife was running it in his stead, and she didn't know what she was doing. It was really stressful for her, and she employed Holmes to help out, and basically he swindled her into handing the pharmacy over to him for very little, and then her and her husband just disappeared. The true story is that Dr. E.S. Holton was a lady. Her husband was perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with him. She just was trying to start a family. She was due to give birth to her second child, and she decided she wanted to sell the pharmacy and move.
Oh, wow,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so she actually found Holmes a very agreeable man, her words, and she sold him the pharmacy on a fair deal. And she moved actually not very far away. They still lived on the same street. So they didn't disappear. If people had just walked a few doors down, they would have found them.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I mean,
totally okay.
Yeah, I suppose the police investigations at this point in time weren't the greatest, but I mean, I've read that first story that no one ever saw her again. Her husband was dying of cancer, and she could live above the shop, and then as soon as she signed everything over, she disappeared. She was just down the road. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and she wasn't the wife who was scammed. She was actually the doctor that just thought, hey, I need a change. So
cashed in and walked off. Nice.
Yeah, basically. So he actually didn't do any swindling at that point. So he went on to run the pharmacy, and he also bought a building which he turned into a jeweler's, and he employed a couple called Ned and Julia Connor. Now, Julia Connor was a bit of all right, and he started an affair with her. He was actually having an affair with her in his house whilst Myrta, his wife, was still living there. Now, Julia's husband, Ned, finds out. He's furious. He files for divorce. And then he up and leaves Julia and their possibly 6, possibly 8-year-old daughter, Pearl. And by all accounts, they are relatively happy with Holmes. Myrta just seems to just vanish from the history books. That crazy old Holmes, and she just gets on with her life. However, Julia and Pearl both disappear later on, and it wasn't until very much later that Holmes said it was due to a botched abortion that he personally carried out that Julia didn't survive. It doesn't explain where Pearl went or what happened to Pearl, so information a bit dubious there. But after that, he employed a stenographer, typist, clerk, PA kind of lady called Emmeline Segrand, who, again, he started an affair with. Now, she disappeared around about Christmas, and he told everybody the same story that he told them about Julia, which was she went to Europe to get married. I mean, I guess that would wash in those days. Nowadays, if I went missing and, you know, somebody told my parents, oh, she's gone to America to get married, they would be on high alert. That just wouldn't wash.
Do you think people were more naive?
Yeah, I guess they did, because I guess there was, you know, no traceability really on anybody. It wasn't like, oh, hey, we'll check Emmeline's Facebook, see if she's put any posts up from Europe or see how she's enjoying France or whatever.
That's it. There's no Insta, is there? There's no, I'm on the beach with selfies and all that. It's just, yeah, okay, we believe you, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, he might have forged letters and sent them to her family. Nobody's going to be any the wiser that the letters aren't from her unless they really, really recognise her handwriting. Because he was known to, after some of his victims or people that he'd been with that disappeared, had disappeared, their family received letters saying, oh, hey, I'm having a great time with blah, blah, blah in so-and-so. And it was him that had sent the letters. So maybe Emmeline's family, maybe Julia's family didn't think anything of it at the time because maybe he forged letters to them too. There's no record of it, but maybe that was the case.
Yeah, possibility, I suppose. Especially because he's a con man straight up, so he's going to cover himself. And then as soon as people stop asking, he can move on to the next one kind of thing, I suppose.
Exactly. Not that he waits very long before he moves on to the next.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he moved on to Minnie Williams next. And I mean, I've seen her pictures and I think he was getting a bit desperate for money by this point because I don't think he fell for her for her looks. She owned lots of property and her family were really, really well off. I think she knew exactly what she was doing with him. She knew he was a swindler. She knew he was a cheat and a liar, but she was also benefiting off his scams. So she was quite happy they had a bit of a Bonnie and Clyde thing going. She was quite happy to assist him. He got her to sign his properties over into her name, which I guess she didn't know at the time because she was too blinded by love for him, but he, you know, would later on go to change hands and con repo men and things like that. And everything was cool between them two with the Bonnie and Clyde thing until her sister Nanny comes into the picture. And Holmes has a little bit of a thing for Nanny and he's a bit of a flirt, and Minnie catches them flirting and she flies into a jealous rage. And according to Holmes, it wasn't him that was the killer, it was Minnie, and she killed her own sister in a jealous rage, and then he helped Minnie cover it up and then flee the country. And that's why they both disappeared, according to him.
In his confession, there's a lot of overlap between Minnie and Julia and Emmeline. It just seems to be a bit... Obviously, it's probably just him trying to sell the story, but she did come across as a bit of a... She'll just try and keep with him because she's earning off it.
Yes, that's how I read into it as well. That she was just as much of a con artist as he was by the time he trained her up.
Yeah.
And it's entirely likely that she knew that he was married, but he wasn't with his wife. I mean, I think he kept dotting between cities, so he probably still kept all these women on the go for as long as he possibly could, whilst they served a purpose, signing things over into their names and lending him money and all this kind of stuff, until he married Georgiana Yoke in 1894, which was actually only 5 years after his daughter Lucy was born. Lucy was Myrta's daughter. And then it kind of got a little bit out of control, which obviously is what you've been looking at.
So yeah, after he married Georgiana, it started to get a little bit spicy within Holmes's life. but this was just at the time that he was leaving Chicago, and obviously we can't talk about Holmes without mentioning at least the murder castle. Everything I've read just leads somewhere else, and he's the murderer that keeps on giving. When he arrived there, like you said, he worked for Dr. Holton, and across the street was a lot that was just vacant, and he had ideas for it. There was money to be made for any honest hotelier, never mind someone who was as much as a con man as Holmes was. So basically what he did was he bought the plot of land by borrowing against the drugstore equity that he had. But it wouldn't actually matter how he paid for it because he didn't actually pay for it. Which is the amazing thing. It was, I don't know if he got away with not paying for it at all, but during the construction, which took 2 years from when they broke land, they had over 500 carpenters, construction workers and builders working on it. 500 people. And the reason is probably twofold. One, because he didn't want everyone to know what was going on there, and two, he just didn't want to pay. So basically, he'd have them work on maybe 1 room, 2 rooms, accuse them of shoddy workmanship, firing on the spot, and not pay them. And even though they'd try and go through the courts to get this money back, eventually most of them just kind of just walked away from it. But in the castle, called the castle because it was so big, there was, on the first floor, there was his drugstore, which he moved over from across the road, the jewellers that he had there. There was also, I think, a metalworking shop in there as well. And then on the 3rd floor, he had offices. I think there was a confectionery shop on the 3rd floor as well, which I read, but it made no sense. Why would you want to go up 3 flights of stairs to buy your candy? It makes no sense, especially when there's just offices there. And it was just Holmes's office as well.
Yeah.
And then on the 2nd floor, there was, I don't know how to describe it, this just crazy mishmash of rooms. In the building in total, there was 60 rooms over the 3 floors. 35 of these rooms were on the 2nd floor. Apparently some of these were just like tiny little closets.
Yeah.
There was the room of 5 doors. It had 5 doors leading in and out of it. I mean, for what purpose, I don't know. There was rooms with no windows in there. I mean, when this was all discovered and then the papers decided to go through there, or when they were investigating it, the papers came up with a lot of hackish names, I suppose. There was the Hanging Secret Chamber, the Blind Room, there was the Death Shaft, and the Room of 3 Corpses. I mean,
This is why they weren't advertised as those rooms.
Well, no, I don't think he got any trip advisors on that, to be quite honest with you. I mean, come and stay in the Room of 3 Corpses.
1 out of 5 would not murder castle again.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. While I was sleeping, this trapdoor opened in the middle of the night. So there were several trapdoors, secret stairs. There was a shaft leading from the roof to the basement and one to the alley as well, I believe. And then they had there was a laboratory on the 2nd floor as well, but his main lab was in the basement. And this is where it now gets a little bit, if it weren't bad enough, now it gets a little bit shady, because in the basement they found acid vats, lime pits, and a furnace that did easily fit a body. It was basically a crematorium. He also had surgical tables, medical tools, and an invention of his own device, which he called the elasticity terminator. So this was basically it was a medieval torture chamber. It was called the rack that they had, but it was of his own device. And basically, what he thought was he could stretch people a little bit all the time until he could breed a race of giants. And that is a quote from him.
Really?
So, yeah. I found that quote and I was like, okay. Apparently, don't know if this was in the confession, but I did find that Emmeline Durand's fiance, Robert Phillips, came knocking around when she disappeared, asking if she was about, and he was actually killed on that, apparently.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, I don't, obviously, you have to take everything with a pinch of salt. But, yeah, as well, some of the rooms had gas vents in them, which Holmes controlled from his own bedroom, so he could turn gas on and off within the actual rooms. Some of them they were soundproofed and had asbestos lining, and in a couple of the asbestos-lined rooms, they found burn marks, which what they thought was he'd turn the gas on and then put a match in there and burn people to death in the actual rooms. And because they were soundproof,
nobody could hear them scream.
Yeah, exactly. As well, he had a bank vault that opposite from his office that had one of these gas vents in. And apparently this was where Emmeline Durand actually died, in there, and there was a footprint that was linked to her that was found in the metal, which is a little bit weird. But
how heavy was she?
Well, this is it. What the explanation was, so there was acid on the floor, and she'd walked in the acid before she went in the bank vault, and then was suffocated, and it kind of burnt in.
Is this the vault that he bought on credit and then refused to pay for, and then when the bailiffs came to collect it, he actually had a room built around the vault, so that it meant you literally had to take the room apart to get the vault out. And when the bailiffs came to take it away because he wouldn't pay for it, he said, "Fine, go on, take it away. You're welcome to keep it, take it. I'll get shot of it, but I warn you, do not damage the building." And he told them he was going to sue them if they damaged the building while they were getting the vault out. And they tried for hours before they realized, yeah, we would have to smash walls down to get this vault out. We'll just leave it. And they walked away and let him have it for free.
I mean, that is the mindset of this guy. And as well, with the castle, he was his own architect on it, so he supervised everything. Probably not letting the builders have too much of a free rein, because obviously, if you go in, why have you got gas vents in here, kind of thing. People start asking questions about that, and then that's probably with a high turnover as well. But unfortunately, it's not there anymore. It is now a post office, but workers have heard strange noises, and a few of them have been overwhelmed with a sense of sadness while they were working. Whether that's been because they're a postal worker, I don't know. Or whether it's to do with the location and maybe the ghouls and ghosts, who knows. But yeah, apparently it was in the process of having a fourth floor put on it.
Oh, right, okay.
When it was burnt down by arsonists.
Convenient.
It wasn't burnt down, it was burnt and damaged, so it was boarded up until Holmes actually got caught, and then they opened it up and had a look and then went, "Ooh, we should have been here sooner."
Just a little bit.
But someone did buy it, and they were planning to exhibit it after as a museum. That's one of the stories as well. But there was another fire soon after the trial, and it burnt down to the ground.
Shame, really, because that would have been a really interesting museum, like the Winchester Mystery House.
Yeah, actually, there has been a few redone. There was a hotel in Bermondsey that somebody built that was based on the design of it.
Oh, right.
And it was like an interactive experience.
Oh, cool.
And as well, there is a game of the Murder Castle. H.H. Holmes Murder Castle, Crimes in History. It's on Kickstarter.
Really?
But they've reached the funding for it, and it's going to go on sale in September, I believe.
Oh, nice.
Or maybe October. But it's like you have a choice of being 6 players. Holmes is lurking. Holmes is like the character. You have to collect all the clues and get out before Holmes gets you.
Kind of like Cluedo, but fun.
Yeah.
Well, I think actually part of the castle, the basement of the castle is actually still there underneath the post office. But I mean, you're not allowed to. I don't think you're really allowed to go under there. But I think that the part of the basement is actually still there now.
So it was the World's Fair was going on at this time, and maybe that's why Holmes built it, because there was a lot of traffic coming through into the city. Like, I think in the World's Fair, 27 million people went to see the World's Fair. And this was at a point where the United States had, I think it was 60 million population. So there was loads of people coming in and out of the city. Chicago was the 4th biggest city in the world. Maybe this is why he built it, so he could have the people coming in. But it's known that Holmes placed 150 adverts in local and statewide papers for female staff, for stenographers, personal assistants, etc. It got to the point that there was so many, maybe not from Holmes, but so many adverts in Chicago at this time that the Union of Bank Managers got together and wrote an advert in the classified section basically saying, if someone's asking about the way you look, if you're single, if your family don't mind you moving, do not answer the ad because it is kind of suspect. And apparently a lot of people came and went. I mean, Holmes has been accused of, he's got 9 victims that we can kind of link him to. He confessed to 28, but then I think 2 of them turned up alive or died in different places.
Yes, yeah.
So, and to be honest with you, he did get paid £4,000 for the confession. So I think he was more monetary motivated rather than truth orientated with it.
Definitely. I think actually one of the people, when he was confessing to their murder, was actually sat in the courtroom discussing the murders with the judge.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So that's quite an achievement.
Yeah, that's good. I killed you, didn't I? Oh no. Oh damn. But
there was no record of anybody actually staying in the murder castle, like visitor-wise. You know, like in the hotel itself, there was no records of anybody even staying there. So what was his incentive to advertise it so much, but not really have any record of anybody staying? It is a bit of a jump, though, isn't it? From going from kind of con artist, insurance scammer to making all these convoluted rooms just to kill people. It just, I don't know. There's just something that doesn't sit right with me. Like his MO was clearly money, but then he's taking all these risks in killing people. I can't piece it together. I can't quite grasp. I mean, all it took was the police to come into these rooms and go, this is very suspect.
What was the achievement for it?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, he did work with someone called Charles Chappell, who was an articulator. Their job at the time was to strip bone and flesh from skeletons and then repurpose them and sell them on to medical stores. So again, going back to his university scam.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he was looking at doing, but I don't think he was a millionaire from this. Maybe he was just sociopath.
Yeah,
but
it is a jump from small-time con man, though, isn't it?
It is. It's a massive jump.
If he was killing people to, for insurance purposes, for life insurance or what have you, or if he was just purely stripping the skeletons down and selling them on, surely there's easier ways of, killing somebody that nobody would notice went missing and stripping their skeleton down and selling it than building all these weird rooms and popping people off that stay in a hotel. They might have rich friends. They're at the World's Fair. These people, presumably, who are staying in the castle are fairly well off. These people aren't going to go unnoticed. I mean, clearly they did, but it doesn't seem to me like a very good plan.
It's a lot of effort for very little reward from it. And as well, he didn't have any architectural training or anything like that. It's a strange one. It's a very strange one.
Yeah.
So, all this brings us now on to Benjamin Pitezel. Benjamin Pitezel, there's either 2 ways here Pitezel and Holmes met. It was either during the construction of the castle, which Pitezel applied as a construction worker, and they had a conversation and struck it off as fellow ne'er-do-wells, or as, I want to say, fellow inventor, even though a rack isn't an invention, it's been there for years, when they were both displaying patents at the chemical bank. And when Pitezel was arrested on one of the times he was arrested, he did have a painting in his pocket. But Patel moved around. He never settled with a job, and he had his family in tow. And eventually he met Holmes. They struck it off, and he was hired as Holmes's personal assistant. I think of all the people, Benjamin Patel knew what Holmes was doing and helped him in as much as he could, and was ingratiated. He ingratiated his family with him. Holmes knew Carrie Patel. He knew them enough to claim guardianship of 3 of the children and lead them on a merry chase around the country.
Big deal.
Yeah, so they were very, very close. So when Holmes left Chicago in 1893, again, whether it was due to the arse and the fire, there was the panic of 1893 where stock prices crashed, or whether it was because the fair had ended and there was fewer people coming through, and he just thought, you know what, move on to a new place. Patel and his family went with him. And this is where it gets like, probably need the Benny Hill theme tune music in, because he travelled to 10 states in under a year with Georgina in tow and the Patel family in tow, going from place to place, trying to commit con after con. They rocked up at Fort Worth in Texas and trying to claim Minnie Williams' inheritance, which didn't. I think the insurance thought something was fishy, so they never paid out. But while they were there, they bought several railroad cars worth of horses and shipped them to St. Louis and sold them and made a massive profit. The issue here is that he used counterfeit notes to buy these horses, and
robbing horses in Texas, good idea.
Indeed, and this is where he kind of went, uh-oh, made a mistake here, didn't he? Texas isn't great for law. Well, it is great for law and order if you're on the side of law and order, but if you're on the wrong side of law and order, it's not a great place to commit crimes, really. Never mind horse theft. No. This is just after the Wild West has finished. Horses are more important than people, really. So they exited quick, sharpish, but a warrant was issued for their arrest, and apparently Georgina was complicit in this. She knew about this scam, but I think, again, Holmes pleaded innocence on it. Other people were out to get him. Yada, yada, yada. This is definitely what happened in St. Louis when, for the first time, even though he's been a con man for so long and he's killed, allegedly, so many people, this is the first time he gets arrested. And it was he was trying to sell drugstore furniture, I believe, or drugstore inventory to someone. He didn't actually have it, and he was trying to pull that scam off, and he actually got arrested and put in prison. Now, while he was in prison, this is where the bottom starts falling out. So while he was in prison, he was a cellmate of Marion Hedgepeth. Yeah. Who was the, I don't want to say famous, but he was a Wild West outlaw called the Debonair Bandit.
Aye, because of his shiny shoes.
I don't know, but he was part of a safe robbing gang in the Wild West. And whether it was he wanted to impress him because he had such stature, or whether he's just trying to show off and go, you know what, I'm kind of in the same vein as you. Holmes told him about the insurance scam of where he was going to get hold of a cadaver, mutilate it, and then present it as someone that he took a life insurance out on, and then get paid out for it. And if Hedgepeth could point him in the direction of a lawyer who'd be able to notarize this and put legal representation behind it, and would look the other way if it was a little bit dodgy, he'd get paid handsomely for it. Yeah. So Hedgepeth was like, you know what? He was in prison for 24 years. He was halfway through it. He's stretched, and he went, you know what? Yeah, fair enough. Colonel Shapaya Howe is your man. And then he said, he pointed him in that direction. Howe was on this, like white on rice. He loved the idea. he was so enamoured with this idea, and he thought, yes, we could make loads of money with this, because he thought Holmes had the medical skill, he'd done it before, maybe he'd explain that he'd tried it in college, yada yada yada. But Holmes just charmed everyone. That's why he was such a ladies' man. I think that's why he got away with so much throughout their life, because he could charm people.
Yeah, the gift of the gab, definitely.
Yeah. So basically, the first kind of scam that he tried was he tried to fake his own death with this, but the insurance people said, no, there's something wrong there. Probably because Holmes was probably trying to present it and going, look, I'm dead. Don't look at my face, look at my dead body here. Who knows? But they got something was up, and he went, oh no. So he didn't push that claim. They moved on to Philadelphia. Now, this is where Peitzel becomes the key player in this, and they changed this scam for Peitzel's body. They'd get a cadaver and say it was Peitzel would go hide away, etc., and they'd all get paid, and they'd all go their separate ways. So what they did was they set up Peitzel as an inventor with an office in Philadelphia. The reason that they put him as an inventor was because they thought it would be easier. He could have an explosion in the lab, and then he'd be disfigured and no one would be able to recognise him. It'd just be like scars and stuff. So the
Makes
face...
sense.
Exactly. If you think about it, it is kind of foolproof. But Holmes wasn't going to get a cadaver. He was just going to actually murder Peitzel. So
Just easier, innit?
yeah, he didn't actually tell that to Benjamin and Carrie, but so basically Peitzel was bad with the drink, let's say. So according to his own confession, Holmes' own confession, he found him passed out through drink at lunchtime, and then he bound his leg and his arms, poured benzene on him, and set him on fire while he was still alive.
Oof.
Yes, that's not nice. I mean, he's not a nice person, but
No.
he does actually. Yeah, he does actually say in his confession is he could have said it a different way to make the reader think that he was less evil, but he decided to be honest with it. Yeah, when there's someone in court that he's saying he's killed that has stood there talking about the case, it's like, well, I don't understand your honesty.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, yeah, a bit weird.
Yeah.
So basically, he burnt him alive. He added chloroform, and there's a little bit of a snafu here of whether he knocked him out with the chloroform or he added it later. But he did actually say he added it later for the benefit of the coroner.
God.
So when they did the autopsy, they'd think it was a cleaning detergent that blew up. Because benzene and chloroform was common in them days as a cleaning detergent. They'd get paid out. But the police, when they came a knocking, were a bit suspect about the way that the body's peaceful repose, and they were could be foul play here. But the coroner and the jury decided it was death by misadventure, it was an accident, XYZ. So the insurance company were all ready to pay out, and then all of a sudden Hedgepeth, who's not been paid this £500, and he's rotting in jail, and he thinks, right, you know what, I could get some time off my sentence here. I'm going to grass him up. So he basically speaks to one of the correctional officers and tells him of Holmes's plan to defraud the insurance agents. Unfortunately for the insurance people, they've already paid out because Alice, which is Peitzel's second oldest daughter, had travelled to Philadelphia to identify the body. She was only 15, so I don't know why they had to put that on her to go and see her burnt dead dad.
Yeah.
A bit
harsh.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll take, like, not even the oldest daughter. Apparently, they had an elder daughter who was 17. So the second oldest. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why they came to that conclusion. But yeah, so the insurance company had already paid out, but they decided to hire the Pinkerton Detective Agency, and they had a man named Frank Geyer to have a look at this, and as soon as he got on this case, he was all over Holmes. This was the beginning of the end now. But somehow he still managed to talk Carrie Peitzel into handing over her two youngest children to him, Howard and Nellie. And he said he'd take care of them because obviously she was still under the impression that Benjamin was hiding. Again, he was in Europe or he was in South America. He was hiding while this all blew over and they got paid. But unfortunately, this was the end for them. Howard was either strangled or poisoned and then burned in an oven in Detroit. And Alice and Nellie, the two girls, were taken to Toronto, put in a box, and in that box he put in chloroform and poisoned them, and then buried them in the basement of a rented house.
What possessed Carrie to just hand over her children?
I really don't know, but the real heartbreaking thing about this, while this was all going on and they were travelling, obviously, I mean, he was travelling with Georgina, his wife, and Carrie was a couple of days behind them. But in Toronto, they were 2 streets away from each other. And in Indianapolis, I think, or maybe Cincinnati, again, they were a couple of streets away from each other. And it's just heartbreaking how close but far away you can be. And then, after all this, what I have read, and now again, whether it's fact or fiction, I don't know, but apparently he rocked up and visited his parents and his first wife, Clara, and claimed he had amnesia as soon as, the minute he walked out the door the first time from Clara, he got hit by a car, had amnesia, and now he's just remembering his life. So he went to visit them. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it's just such a stretch.
I also read that. I read that he was welcomed with open arms, even after admitting that he'd fallen in love with the nurse that helped him through his amnesia and married her, and he was still, welcomed home. But that is contrary to what Clara had said, which is that she never heard from him ever again.
Yeah, I read the same that Clara, as soon as he left, one time they spoke together and that was it. But apparently this was in the beginning of November, and then literally on the 17th of November in Boston, as he left a hotel, he was arrested by the Pinkertons. And because he thought he'd get a leaner sentence, he decided to admit to the insurance fraud, because he was still on the warrant for the horse thief. So that's how they arrested him. That's the only thing that they had on him. So while they were discussing whether they were going to extradite him to Texas, he knew that he'd get a long time in prison, if not death, on that. He admitted to the insurance fraud, and this is where they kind of went, oh, okay. And then they opened up the castle and went, oh, okay. And that is, it's not all, but that is how he came to his end. I
mean, it's Marion Hedgepath. I don't know what he was expecting, really. I know, that they were going to be friends for life when they both got out of jail.
That's the thing as well. He was doing 24 years in jail on bank robbery. So I mean, literally, and he's been in the Wild West. Of course, he's going to grass on you. You know what I mean? Why would you even think about telling someone that? I mean.
Well, I think Hedgepath had links to Bonnie and Clyde as well, so...
Really? Wow.
I think so. He just in general wasn't hanging around with, the cool kids.
Yeah.
He's really not right to trust in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Holmes was a bit... Although, he was hanged in prison. But his great-great-grandson on Clara's side, Jeff Mudgett,
okay,
100% believes that Holmes was Jack the Ripper. He believes he conned his way out of prison, that he didn't get hanged, because apparently he was hanged away from the public eye. So there was, only a handful of witnesses, like priests and jailers, who allegedly Holmes bribed into forging the witness statements of his death, and then he fled the country. Now, the thing is, Holmes actually, he still could have committed the murders, the Jack the Ripper murders, because they occurred in 1888. This was many years before he was hanged in jail, allegedly.
Yeah, that's before he got to, or just after he got to Chicago, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there was a story where he did go missing for a while. I think he was worried that he was going to get caught out, so he disappeared, and he allegedly was seen catching a ferry to England. This was around about the time of the Whitechapel murders, which then stopped when Holmes was later seen again back in America. Apparently, Jeff Mudgett does have his grandfather's diaries, which detail, so apparently in Holmes's own words, in his own journals, why, I'm not overly sure whether these are even real or not, because if I was a serial killer, I probably wouldn't be journaling everything that I've done for later evidence, and then leaving it as, as my family's,
heirlooms,
legacy, heirlooms, yeah. Apparently in these journals, he describes mutilating and murdering women in London. So Jeff Mudgett is completely under the illusion that his great-great-grandfather was Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper did have medical knowledge. Clearly, he knew what he was doing. And yes, Holmes did disappear at that time. But I did for a long time think that, yeah, Holmes was definitely Jack the Ripper. But I think more and more about it, it just doesn't fit the MO. There's just, he's not getting anything out of a prostitute. There's no monetary value that he's, he might have got a couple of shillings out of robbing them after they were dead. It just doesn't fit with any of his other crimes at all. So for me, no.
Yeah, for me as well. Like, I did see that, and he is adamant that he is. But I think for me, the more thing about it is the hands-on approach that he took to the castle. And although it took 2 years to build, I think he wouldn't have the time frame to leave, and he didn't trust anyone enough to build it to the specifications that he wanted.
That is true.
I think for the castle to be built how it was, and with the rooms and everything that it was, I don't think you could abscond for six months, a year, go killing, and then the travel as well. It wasn't like 6 hours on a flight. It's 3-month crossing. So it's 6 months again taken out with the travel, and then going to a foreign city, because there's no record of Holmes going there before. And okay, as soon as you rock up in any city, you know where the prostitutes hang out. But it required a little bit more of knowledge to get away for the ins and outs of the alleys for Jack the Ripper. And although, again, medically trained, I think it's just more of a... He mutilated them and left them on display. Whereas, okay, Holmes left them on display in a different way, but it's the monetary value that I think that he got from it, rather than the actual... And
he got rid of the evidence, Clearly, Jack the Ripper had some sort of hatred for women. That I think that's why he did what he did. It didn't seem like Holmes hated women at all. I mean, he might as well have had a revolving door installed on himself. He had that many women. It didn't seem to me like he hated any. He just could either take them or leave them. Do you know what I mean? That's it.
He just saw a weak mark, and
he
was running a hustle. He was a con man rather than a murderer. Murder. It was the evolution of the con, if you like. It was just to get people out of the way.
Yeah, it was more or less collateral.
Yeah, that's it. It wasn't... I don't think he fully went out. Maybe with Minnie and maybe with a few of them to get their things, they need to disappear. But I don't think he had a visceral kind of, I want people to see this and put it on show like Jack the Ripper did.
Yeah.
I think I can't believe it. I mean, I suppose I really don't want to believe it, because I think Jack the Ripper it's a very, I'm not going to say English thing, but it's a very, it's one of our legends. You know what I mean? And for it to be an American, never. But not just that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's the mystery and the awe of it, isn't it? Really, with that. I agree 100%. I can't see it being.
No, I can't.
Holmes.
Yeah, it was financial for him. That's all he cared about was the money, which is why the castle still just doesn't sit with me. It doesn't make any sense. He's made these rooms clearly to torture people, and I can't wrap my head around that when basically all he wanted was their skeleton to sell off. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it's
like a body to him was like £100 for nothing. It wasn't the, like you say, like the visceral, he wanted to see people suffer and he wanted to, rip them apart. It was just, I need your skeleton. The only way I can get that is if you're dead. So I'll just finish you off quickly, strip you down, and then sell you off to a university. It just seemed so black and white to me.
Yeah. I don't know what part that gave him with it. I mean, what he got from that. Obviously, he got something from it, and he was very, very hands-on with it. But
yeah, makes you wonder if he ever did visit the Winchester Mystery House or heard about it, because he did steal a lot of ideas. I mean, obviously, the Winchester Mystery House was built before the murder castle, I think. But it uses a lot of the ideas from it.
It does, yeah, doors that go nowhere, and he probably would have known about it or known something akin to it. He could have easily have seen something like that, and then that's where the idea grew from.
Mm-hmm.
But alas, we won't ever know.
We'll never know. No.
It's been and gone. It's nearly 150 years now.
But what we do know is that his body was definitely encased in concrete, and he definitely was hanged at Moormanton prison because Jeff Mudgett had his body exhumed and did a DNA test which matched Jeff's DNA. So he definitely died when they said he died.
Yeah.
He didn't escape.
No. So that as well, So, I mean, I think he was just clutching at straws, but as well, being encased in cement because he didn't want his body's fate to be that of what he'd done to other people as well. I think that's, I mean, obviously no one wants that to happen, but I just think there's a little bit of cowardice. Like, you put so many people through this, you have the choice. And he was allowed that choice.
Yes,
well.
He was, yeah.
Obviously, no one should have that choice taken away from him if they've got it. I don't think he should have been told no, but I just think it's a little bit cowardice of him.
I think it would have been quite ironic for a university to have Holmes' skeleton on display.
Indeed. Right, well, thank you very much. That was the MO podcast. We're talking about H.H. Holmes. That was me, Consummation San, and my lovely co-host, Atreya.
Thank you very much.
And we shall hopefully see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye.